I'm down to talk about Champions Queue for a little bit. Down to just talk about the game in general. First things first, I think what's actually the most relatable thing for 99.9% of people who play League or interested in League is solo queue. I can't tell if I'm like being influenced by stuff like Faker saying solo queue quality is shit, or even just being influenced by the fact that like for the last few months I've been used to playing Champions Queue. There's like a lot of negative feeling around solo queue right now, and after playing these 3 games I can tell you that the quality of the game is pretty bad. I mean, all 3 of the games that I played were extremely low quality, and it's not even just like, oh, I lost, haha. It's like I have an 0-12 top laner, right? Like it's a 15-minute game. He died once a minute. He obviously didn't give a fuck, and then he ran it down in this next game too. And then, you know, games like this, where the fucking support is just playing type race for the whole game. Games like that, it's not fun. It's not fun for the losing team. The League is just not a fun game for the losing team overall. But I think you can have games that are decently close and you can just say, oh shucks, you know, one or two things went differently, maybe would have won. But yeah, it feels really low quality. There's lots of intangibles with it. I could lose like 4 games in a row, and then, you know, at the end of it I'll be like, yeah, that sucks, I lost 4 games in a row, 8 games in a row. Like I'm not happy that I'm fucking losing a bunch of games, but maybe the games were fun. Anyways, there was a decent chance that I could have won. I could have played a little better. I mean, you can always play better. Yeah, the games aren't just being single-handedly ruined like in some of these instances. So for solo queue quality, not great. And everyone wants to know what I think about Champions Queue. I think I need to pull up some things first that will help give context about Champions Queue. One of them is Lorlo's take on the Champions Queue situation. You know, Lorlo, he's not the most accomplished guy, but he is a top player in the game, and he is a grinder, and he is consistently participating in Champions Queue. So anybody who has a strong opinion on Champions Queue, you're going to have a lot more credibility if you've been playing it, if you've been watching it, if you've been playing it, if you've been engaging with it. You know, anybody who does a cursory glance at Champions Queue and has like a really strong opinion, I feel like you have to take it with a grain of salt, because people like Lorlo, people like me, we've been playing Champions Queue, you know, 80-90% of the total time that it's available. Like almost every single second that we can be playing it, we are playing it. Another example of that is going to be people like Sven and people like Ole. You can see Ole retweeted Sven's tweet here. When Champions Queue came out, I thought it was the best thing that has happened in NA in regards to solo queue. And now 2 months later, it's completely dead. GG. I agree, with all my heart, I agree with the first part. When Champions Queue came out, I thought it was going to be the best thing ever. I actually made a video about it, and I said in that video, I mean, I'm probably going to end up eating my words. I said in that video, I think Champions Queue is so great that it's going to help elevate NA to being a stronger region internationally. Like I thought that Champions Queue was going to be something that's so powerful by itself. It's going to help our region be as good as EU and maybe compete with Korea and China in the super long run. You know, not be as good as them, but get closer. And now 2 months later, it's completely dead. And we can talk about what that actually means, because he's not the only one who's saying it. I said it a few days ago. I've been saying it for at least a week. Looking at Lorlo's tweet right here, Ole also retweeted. And by the way, guys, these are people who are going to have strong opinions on Champions Queue because they play it 95% of the time that it's up. They are so engrossed in Champions Queue and they enjoy it so much, and they put so much time and effort and energy into it. I respect their opinion. I know for a fact I play against Sven, and I see him in the Champions Queue Discord all the fucking time. He is grinding. Okay, so Lorlo says, at this point, I don't even know what is holding back players from at least playing 1 to 2 Champ Queue games a night. I just really want to see NA put in the effort, work, and passion to grow and get better. Champions Queue is truly an amazing benefit to NA. Wish it was just used more. So Lorlo takes like I would say this is a pretty mild take. He's not asking for 20 games of Champions Queue a week, which is an average of 3 games a day. Right? He's asking for 1 to 2 games a night per player. So he's asking for, how much time is that, guys? An hour to an hour and a half per night from every pro player. That's showing why he wants them to do that. And he's also saying it's a shame because it's an amazing benefit, but it's just not being used. All right, and then we can scroll way down here, and I had actually saw that Ole has been tweeting for a while that Champions Queue is completely dead, bury it. Champions Queue is dead today on April 4th. Where are you guys? His stream is on. Champions Queue dead, playing solo queue. It's April 3rd. This is now 5 days ago. Champions Queue is dead, but still trying to play. April 2nd, he says it's dead. Okay, so this is obviously something that's been boiling up. You have a slow week in Champions Queue. It's not a big deal. I can shrug it off. Persistently over the course of a couple weeks, now people are starting to get worried. And we're close to the 2-week mark, I would say, in terms of the feeling of pros not really taking it seriously. In fact, there was that drama with Danny where Danny actually, like, we can here it is. So here it is. Actually, I did skim over it, and he's explaining why he doesn't play. This is a whole different topic that we can get into, but it definitely plays into what everyone is upset about. Right? Lorlo's tweet actually made it on the front page of Reddit, and there was a lot of discussion. First off, I want to say that when Champions Queue first came out, everyone was playing the shit out of it. I was having so much fun, and I think it was absolutely contagious. Just how I think Champions Queue being what it was and being something new, you get that honeymoon phase with it where you feel like, wow, this is, it's like you're dating a new girl. You only seeing the positives. You can brush off the negatives. They're not really bothering you as much. It's just an amazing time, right? Something new for pro players to play with, some new content for all the fans to enjoy. Everyone loves it. Every coach is watching it all the time. Every League of Legends LCS fan is watching the Champions Queue streams, and they're bouncing between all the streamers and be like, oh my god, like Malice, RJS, and Niles, they said this and that, and it's like, it's really fun. It's really cool. And then I feel like the negativity just started seeping in when there's some drama. There's some rage quitting. There's some negative feelings about Champions Queue, like, oh, why is XYZ player allowed to play? Like, how come the queue times are so long? Is it dead? And the negativity just turned into like this vicious cycle where people just started. It's just toxic, right? Like it's a toxic environment. People are getting shit on, even in Danny's case, right? Like Danny is being shit on for not playing it, and it almost became like this civil war situation where like Champions Queue advocates and then like advocates of other stuff, other ulterior like ways of practicing or like fighting with each other in the community. Honestly, after the honeymoon phase wore off, I could totally see, everyone could see that the queue times were insane. I was getting an hour-long queue time between each game, and my chat was always asking me, "Oh, Doublelift, what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you in queue? Are you in queue? Are you in queue?" It's like, yeah, I've been in queue for the last hour and 15 minutes, man. Like, it's just fucked. I'm not having any fun. I don't want to be playing this. I'm playing like shit, for one, because I can play 4 games per night, and I'm playing against pro players who are scrimming 5-6 games before I even get a chance to queue up. And like solo queue feels like shit because the community expects every streamer to just be playing Champions Queue the whole time. So it just is a feels bad situation all around, because if I play solo queue on stream, everyone is just bitching that I'm not playing Champions Queue. If I'm playing Champions Queue on stream, everyone's just bitching that I play 3 games in 5 hours. It's a lose-lose situation because I do enjoy Champions Queue. I fucking loved it. In the beginning, I played it. Everyone who's watching my stream knows that I've been streaming it 6 to 7 hours. The entire time that it was available, I would stream it every single day. I didn't even take days off if I could avoid it. Like, I used to take 2 days off guaranteed, and there was literally like a full month where the only time that I took off from Champions Queue was for absolutely, like, I need to, for a sponsor, like I had an appointment, like prior arrangement with like Lena or something, or just like some real actual reason of just like, I can't play today because I have something else to do. Because I loved it so much. It was so fun. I was having the best time ever. I was making the best content, I feel like. Like, it was amazing. Yeah, I really, really loved it. And now it's tough. I turn on my stream at 5:30. I start the queue at 6 p.m. And by 1 a.m., I played 3 to 4 games. And the stream is terrible. I can't explain to you guys enough how bad it feels to stream. And like 70% of the time that I'm streaming, I'm wasting your guys' time. Like, I get viewers, but I don't think it's a good stream. And like, that always feels like shit. I tried to do other stuff in between my Champions Queue games, right? There was a time where I was watching Breaking Point. That was really fun. There was a time where I was watching 90 Day Fiancé with you guys. That was really fun. But I'm not the best at like finding shit to stall between games. And it just feels really awkward because I'm not actually fully committed to that stuff. I'm like waiting for my Champions Queue game to pop so that I can pivot off and then like come back into it when I have to. The whole situation just felt really bad. I was reading this Reddit thread. Let's read this Reddit thread together first. So this is Lorla's post about how Champions Queue is essentially dying, or it's already dead. Let's read what the community said about it. There's this feedback loop of less people playing Champions Queue because of long queue times, going into longer queue times, going to more people stop playing. I really respect and feel bad for the few players that are still playing every night with these long queues. It's been really depressing to watch Ole, one of the most positive players in the scene, progressively lose hope for Champions Queue every day on stream. He's even started to say things like, just delete Champions Queue at this point since no one's playing. Champions Queue has so much potential, I just really wish more people would use it. It definitely feels really bad. That's the only way to put it. In fact, like, let's just go to the leaderboard and look at games played, right? And I should not even be anywhere close to the top. I'm at number 72 here. Or sorry, I'm at not number 72. I'm at 72 games played. Nice one, right, dude? I'm fucking below 50. Feels bad. A lot of the top players are not going to be LCS players. And why is that? It's unfair to compare them to LCS players because they don't have to scrim. They don't have to go. They don't have to play LCS. They don't have to scrim. They don't have to do team meetings. They don't have to do any team bonding whatsoever. And honestly, you only have so much fuel in the tank. I don't expect somebody to play 10 or 11 a.m. all the way to 1 a.m. every day. That's a lot. I don't expect every player to put in 14 hours of work every day. That's what a Korean and Chinese player would do. That's not what is expected here in NA. Let's be realistic about it. You can play 2 to 3 games a day. That's not asking a lot. That's asking for 2 hours of your time after scrims. You have scrim for 5 hours. You put in 2 hours of Champions Queue time a day. That's nothing. Here we have Ole. He's the first LCS player in the entire, second split of Champions Queue. He's at a crazy 123 games. I would say that's super impressive, and hats off to Ole because he has a crazy work ethic. He really does. By far, without any doubt, he's the hardest working LCS player, and you can't take that away from him. He played 123 games of Champions Queue, and the second place is JoJo at 100. He also works insanely hard, right? These guys are super hard workers. You don't need to really differentiate here between all amazing, but it is really nice to see that there's one person who's super ahead. Pride Soccer, oh shit, I'm trolling. Pride Soccer's number 2, I'm griefing. So Pride's, well, I mean, these guys are nuts. These guys are nuts. They fucking try their ass off. They played more Champions Queue than I did. I will say, though, that depending on what role you play, your queue times are going to vary. In a lot of, for example, Tomo having 92 games, that's different. It's different queuing up 92 games as an AD carry as opposed to a support. Just because your queue time is going to be so different. As we scroll more and more down, you can see that, there's some LCS players in here. There's some LCS players that have played above 50 or 60 games. But remember, guys, how many LCS players are there? 50. There's 50 LCS players, okay? And, think about how many of them have a real valid excuse for not playing 2 to 3 games a day. I don't think that there's that many people out of those 50 who can say, and they'll tell you with a straight face that, yeah, I just couldn't play those 2 or 3 games a day. It just wouldn't work in my schedule. Yeah, it feels really shitty. It feels really bad. There's a lot of people in here that you guys aren't gonna recognize simply because they're from LAN regions, they're collegiate players, whatever it is. But I don't really know. I don't really know what to think about that. He is right because I am now a part of this vicious feedback loop. This top comment saying that the long queue times turned into longer queue times, and that turned into more people stopped playing, and now I've stopped playing. And I don't have any interest in playing, actually, because I know that Ole is depressed every day on his stream, and I don't want that to be me. If I am super desperate to have a high viewership stream, then I might do it again. But right now, I don't have any interest in doing it because it's just not fun. I don't want to sit in queue for an hour. I really don't. My number one priority in Champions Queue is to make content. Okay, that's my job. I make content. My number one priority is to make content. When I spend an hour in queue to play a 20-minute game, I feel like I've invested so much time to make a really insignificant amount of content. There's better ways that I can invest my time now, right? I have other options to do. And for most pro players, I would say that's my number one priority. For most players in Champions Queue, and this is a priority of mine too, it's just not my number one priority, the point of Champions Queue is to get better. If you spend that much time wasting it, if you spend all that wasted time for 20 minutes of potential improvement like high quality gameplay, it's no better than solo queue. It really isn't any better. In fact, I would argue for me, I would improve so much faster just playing solo queue because I can get games in 5 or 10 minutes and I'm not wasting all that time. I'm constantly having to warm myself up when I get into a Champions Queue game. I just come into the game so fucking cold. My brain is so dead. I haven't been fucking stimulated in an entire hour in terms of like league related mechanics or muscle memory. It's just, I'm not improving. There's no way I'm fucking improving. Yeah, and funny enough, like in a way, Danny was right. Well, I mean, Danny wasn't right because his points were horrible, but like almost everyone is going to become Danny eventually. That's really it. Like, how can you come into a game with no warm up every single time? I guess in a way I can play practice tool between games. That would be one way. But yeah, I just don't want to deal with it. I'm also afraid this could mean they don't bring it to other servers. I'd love to see from European or Korean leagues match up in those games. They've been super cool to watch in NA. Again, I don't think people really understand the point of Champions Queue really as much. It was supposed to be NA's way of replacing solo queue so that pro players could play on 10 ping. That was the main purpose, and all the other stuff is icing on the cake. It's extra credit. The comms, the no autofill, the like select few people that can play in it. All these things, the prize pool, it's extraneous. It's just icing. It's just extra stuff on top. You don't need that. All we really wanted was a low ping environment. And so, yes, it would be cool if Europe or Korea had a Champions Queue. I don't think it's going to happen just because all the pros in LEC and in Korea can already play in a really low ping environment. And that in itself is rewarding enough. Having good practice is the reward. And that was supposed to be Champions Queue reward. It wasn't really supposed to be like mega content farming. It wasn't supposed to be like a way for pro players to earn some extra money. All that stuff didn't even matter. It was just supposed to be better practice for the pros. Yeah, the voice chat, like it's just not the best incentive. This guy's saying the system is completely shit and the incentives too. Plus 10, minus 5 LP for win-loss is really fucked. It decentivizes players from playing once they know they can't reach the top spots. Malice said Dokla has such a big lead that if he gets even close to 50% win rate, he is unreachable. It feels like some kind of NFT game where players go away once the possibility of a reward disappear. And this is where I think the community is like really out of touch with what pro players want. Do you guys think that out of the 50 pro players in LCS, a large percentage of them care about the prize pool? Hell no. Maybe like 5 or 10 of the pro players in LCS care about the prize pool. Every other player is playing Champions Queue to get better. I don't give a fuck about the prize pool. If they could remove the prize pool, I know I'm in a really privileged spot. Like, blah, blah. I know it's like very fucking like 1%er for me to say this. But like, if they took away the prize pool, I wouldn't care. It's about your desire to improve. That's what should matter. Like, not this possibility of a reward disappearing. I don't care about that. I really don't. And I don't think any pro player should. Then why have a prize pool? Genuinely asking. Great question. They thought that adding a prize pool would help incentivize pro players to play it. I almost think that the prize pool is like distracting. Like the prize pool is... I was telling like Lena about this actually, about my podcast. Like I have this podcast, Trash Talk, and it's really good. It's going well. I want to get better as a host. I'm kind of fucking running it down as the host, and I need to do better. But my podcast is doing really well. And when I invite people over, for example, I could pay LS a few $100. I could pay Joe Marsh a few $100 or even $1,000 for their time, right? I could. And when I'm thinking about that, I feel like maybe one day I'm gonna want to have Tyler One on my podcast. And Tyler One's time is worth a certain amount of money. I almost don't even want to insult these people. Like, you guys are gonna think this is so stupid because if somebody gave you $1,000 to be on a podcast, you'd say yes instantly. But like, this is not how really the industry works. And if you give somebody an amount of money, they become fixated on whether or not that money is worth their time. I think it's just human nature. Like, for example, if it's different, if like a friend wants me to, I'm just going to take every like my podcast out of it. If somebody wants me to be on their podcast as a favor, because like I was on the OTV podcast. Skara asked me, Skara's my longtime friends, and I'm friends with a lot of the OTV people, and Lena actually, huh?
I asked you.
Yeah, like Lena asked me to be on the podcast, and it feels great. But like, if I wasn't that good friends with them, but I knew it was like a good business opportunity, and they sort of like, oh yeah, you know, instead of paying you nothing, we'll pay you like $300 to be on my podcast, to be on this podcast. And I would feel like, the fuck, I'm driving over there for an hour, I'm being on the podcast for like 2 to 3 hours, and then I'm going home, takes another hour, and like all for 5 hours of my time, I'm only getting paid like $300. I become like really fixated about the amount of money, and it's distracting me. It's distracting me from the actual like the real chase of Champions Queue. Well, the real chase of being on the podcast, by the way, is that you're making sick content and you're building up your brand. Just that alone was really important to me. Same thing with Champions Queue. The money feels like a distraction. You know, telling you that like you should slave away 7 hours a day at Champions Queue for like a chance to overtake Dokla at this like small prize money, it's distracting. I don't know if it's like something about human nature and just how we think about stuff, but I don't really feel like the prize pool is important. They could take it away, and I just don't think it would really affect it much either way. That would be a you problem? No, I really think that no, I think that's just how people think. And when you're I've been in the industry, and I've known so many people in this industry for so long. That's just something that I've noticed over time. What can be a better incentive? How about the incentive is the prestige of being high on the Champions Queue leaderboard and having amazing practice compared to solo queue? How about that? How about furthering your career? How about furthering your brand because you can stream the Champions Queue games if you're really good and you can interact with your fans? How about being a better player so you can win LCS and increase the value of your contract for next year? How about showing all the owners and all of the fellow competitors in LCS that you're a hardworking and you're a good player? Because this right here, what Ole and Pride Soccer are doing is increasing their value insanely. What Sven is doing, playing 133 games at a 61% win rate at rank 2 on the leaderboard, what he's doing is he is massively increasing his value. And this is the difference between Sven getting this could be the difference between Sven getting an insanely nice package deal on his contract, good salary, good team, and him getting passed over for someone else. That's already a reward in itself, becoming a better player and giving yourself more value. Like, yeah, you have respect. Are people people are not blind, okay? Rhetorical question. People are not blind. Everyone can see who's putting in the work. Not everyone can see who's not putting in the work, because the unfortunate reality of it is not a lot of people are putting in the work. So they're blending in with all the others. No, Riot cannot tell the orgs to make their players play Champions Queue, man. That's like a fucking like a labor law. You can only require someone to work like 8 hours a day. Do you feel like they should add more slots to Champions Queue? Players like Cat Evolved who are ex-amateurs and aspiring pros aren't allowed in. If anything, I feel like that will disincentivize and lower the quality of the games. And I think that's going to actually have a negative effect. I think they just need to take the existing 194 players that are invited. Guys, let's just do some math here. Okay, fuck it. Like I'm getting pissed about all these ideas. There's 50 solo queue players, there's 50 LCS starting players, and there's 50 amateur players, okay? There's 50 academy players. Let's say that all 100 players have decided we're gonna put in 2 hours a day after scrims, okay? So you have 100 players that are then gonna play 2 games, okay? So then you have 200 players. Or sorry, you have like 200 instances. Now each individual game is going to take 10 people. So now you have 20 games of Champions Queue happening per day. This is somewhat healthy. 20 games of Champions Queue happening every day. This is okay. It's the bare minimum. 2 games per fucking day. Do you guys think that 20 games of Champions Queue is happening per day? Let's go to the Champions Queue fucking leaderboard. Let's go to the leaderboard and see. 20 games per day feels low to me, right? It feels sad. Let's go to the leaderboard and go to the match history and see how many games are happening per day. Okay, so on April 4th, 3 games happened. On Sunday, April 3rd, 1, 2, 3, that's 15 games. On Saturday, this one's actually not bad, 17. We're almost reaching an average of 2 games per day. Sad part is, that's 100 players. There's 194 people involved. I think, realistically, I'm lowballing the number of games that need to be played by like an absolutely disturbing amount, right? Like it's a disturbing amount. Like I think it should be more like 40 games per day. That would be amazing, because an average of I'm talking about a minimum of 2 games per day. There are people who play like fucking 5, 6, 7 games of Champions Queue per day that are going to increase that average by so much. Looking here, 10, 15. This day actually we popped off, guys. We played like 22, 23 games. Yeah, it's really not good. Every time I didn't see this. Every time I watch DL stream Champions Queue, he's talking about me. It was the same dudes in those games. There's that Rengar dude, Dokla, Lorlo, RGS, Jose. I don't even recognize most of the other names. It's a bunch of guys who are hungry for a spot on the big stage. The guys who who have that spot turned into lazy fucks who can't mentally handle the nature of Shaman's Q. This is obviously a bit of like a hyperbole, or not hyperbole. Well, yeah, it is a hyperbole, and it's like a personal attack. Also, the reason why there's a lot of similar names in my games is because we queue up at the same time. It's because I get into a game with 10 people, and then as the game ends, we all queue up at the exact same time, and there's a high chance that I'm gonna just kind of like roll with that same group of people. He's not wrong that there are not very many games, and there's not much variety. It's a lot of people grinding. A lot of the same people are grinding, and a lot of people just don't play at all. They're an embarrassment to all fans in North America. Shout out to all the pros and amateurs grinding Champions Queue. You have my utmost respect compared to your peers. I really hope Champions Queue grinders stick with it and overcome their bum counterparts. Sounds like NA, FPL, and CSGO. Not enough NA players there either.
The problem is just that there's not enough players.
Not enough players? Well, yeah. Everything always comes back to the fact that our solo queue is a minor region tier of solo queue in terms of player base. If we had a bigger player base, solo queue quality would be a lot better inherently, just by nature of churning up more good players with a higher level of solo queue. Maybe we don't need Champions Queue. Maybe we don't need to divide up our ladder like this. Just slot top 5 Champions Queue into World Finals against T1 with a 2-0 head start. That'll show them enough incentive. Unironically, the best odds NA ever had? Yeah, obviously. We never made it to the finals before. It's fucking greater than 0. It's going to be the best odds. Funny enough, I think if you did this, I would literally put my life savings down on T1 reverse sweeping and us losing. Like, no, actually, the odds would be so stacked for the Champions Queue players. Whatever. I don't think I'm allowed to bet, by the way. I think because I'm like someone who's like, I'm like somebody within the scene, and I like represent LCS. I don't think I'm actually allowed to bet. Really? I can? I don't ever want to bet. I hate betting.
You can't bet on certain matches, but you can.
Yeah. I'm just like co-streaming the game that I bet my life savings on. Like, fuck! 100 Thieves, no! Turns out, and it was just lazy all this time. Gonna be funny seeing one of our teams go 0-6 at Worlds this year again. Well, what do you mean again? I don't remember that happening. First time, right? Malice just tweeted that Champions Queue is dead. Just once again shows the lack of desire to improve. Imagine how much LPL and LCK would improve from a Champions Queue server. You have everyone grinding if there were strict consequences for toxicity/trolling. Champions Queue isn't perfect, but if people are only willing to get prizes or rank 1, they're probably doing it wrong. Goal should be to improve as a player. Yo, base take, good take. One thing that really honestly carried me throughout my career is I have an ego. Everyone does. Like, don't lie, guys. If you're good at something, you have a fucking ego. There's no such thing as someone who's like top tier at something and has like absolutely like the most non-existent, they have like experienced like acid induced ego death. Okay, that doesn't happen. Champions Queue making you a better player, that's the fucking reward. That's it. That's the reward. Getting fans, getting recognition, getting like becoming successful, being recognized by your peers, the people that you respect. You know, let's say that you're an academy mid laner and like Bjergsen adds +1 reputation points to you because one time you fucked him in lane, or you're like really playing super well against me on my stream, and now fans are like, they have their eye out for you because like you're playing really well. Becoming a better player by grinding is like, that's the reward. I think that cannot be overstated enough, because I see a lot of times in this thread, it's just like, man, the monetary incentives just don't make sense. The fact that Dokla has already essentially locked in first place, and no one is gonna be able to like fucking pass him up in points. It's like, congrats, Dokla, you worked your ass off. You played 161 fucking games of Champions Queue, man. You seriously deserve it. I know that the queue system is broken. You have a great win rate, 59%. Hats off to you, man. Like, maybe Core JJ should actually be higher rated than you, because his win rate is fucking ridiculous, unbelievable. But like, yeah, sure, you can have your gripes with this like matchmaking system. It's just, it feels like a distraction. We're not talking about the right stuff. The community's talking about worthless shit. Dokla has pride. They took away the fucking prize money. Dokla has pride that he's rank 1 Champions Queue this split. That gives him value. That will pay off in itself. I think from like, to kind of like play devil's advocate here, I think the pro players think that having time to rest, relax, come into scrims fresh the next day, that has value. It really does. And maybe that the way that they're going to do that is by playing games with their friends. Maybe they just want to chill, sleep a little bit extra, socialize, do something that's not league related, not something that's going to directly improve their play, but They think that like the diminishing returns of playing extra Champions Queue games, playing extra solo queue games, is not going to help them as much as coming into the next day hungry, refreshed, and ready to go with a lot of good energy. In my experience, that's been true for me sometimes. Like sometimes I feel a bit burnt out, you know, like motivation, it goes up, it goes down. And there are times where I know that if I just sit there and I grind out an extra few hours, I'm not really going to be happy the next day. Like I'm not going to come in with like the right attitude. Obviously there's like an element of like, yeah, we'll just fucking man it up because you need to improve. But I have felt that way in the past, but I've never felt like I couldn't play 2 games after scrims. That's just ridiculous. In fact, like one of the biggest points of friction on Team Liquid at the end was like, they wanted us to stay at the office. So scrims end at 5 and they kind of wanted us to stay at the office until like 8 or 9. So they essentially wanted us to stay like 4 or 5 hours at the office so the coaches could look over us playing solo queue. And I would stay until like 7 or 8. So I'm spending 2 to 3 hours at the office playing a few solo queue games, and then I go home to eat dinner. Sometimes I would play more solo queue afterwards, sometimes not. But there was never a day where I just like after scrims I just said, yep, fuck it guys, 5 p.m. time to go home, and then I clocked in. You know, I clocked out, and I was never to be seen again. Maybe once in a while, once in a blue moon, but the fact that it's becoming the norm is like really scary. I think like it's actually time to bring up Travis's. It's funny because Travis, I know his personal opinion about Champions Queue is like the players are getting too much flack for not playing. His personal perspective about it is like there's too much bias for it. Let's look at how much drive and motivation people have. Golden Guardians, they are one of the hardest working. Their average is dog shit because there's also an element of just like this last week has been horrible. Let's keep going back. This is a horrible example because Champions Queue is already dead. We're not going to get good data from this. Not an April Fool's tweet. Okay, here we go. This is a Champions Queue cards. We've got 18 for Team Liquid. Not bad. That's an average of like 2.5 games per day. Golden Guardians killing it. 25. That's great. That's a 3.5 games average per day. Okay. Immortals. Blows. Xerxes. Good job. Joey. Good job. FlyQuest. Bummer. What the hell are they doing? Less than 1 game per average per day. Less than 1 game average per day. CLG. 1.5 games average per day. 2 games for 100 Thieves. I'll give them a C. They pass.
Okay, wait, scroll back. So my point was just that someone like Afro, right? He didn't have a single game. And Jonathan, they're still gonna get picked up come next off season because they're always gonna bounce around the middle to lower tier pack teams. Right, like the idea that they could potentially get picked up by the tier above them, like a C9 or a Team Liquid, I think at this point in the careers is kind of very, very, very low percentage chance. And so maybe those are the type of players where you see a lot of these players that are not putting in that time. Because any additional time that they put in, they're not going to get picked up by a Team Liquid or a Cloud9. That's all I meant. Like, I don't agree with it, obviously. I'm just saying from a perspective of, those players. It
makes sense from their time investment perspective, if that's what they want. I think the goal of Champions Queue, really not the goal of Champions Queue. I think I'm going to actually just say the goal of solo queue is to find talent to replace the people who aren't working hard. And to replace the people who don't have the capability to be the best. Obviously, there's going to be role players in every single position, right? Like, I think Afro has well earned his spot in LCS. Like, he's fucking good. He's fucking good. So let's just take the names out of the equation because I think in Afro's case, it doesn't actually none of this stuff really affects him much. And I think Afro's kind of like fucking immune to community criticism anyways. But he's been playing well and doing good. There's definitely going to be some exceptions to the rule, and I think the tunnel on the exceptions is to like disrespect the topic. Talking about like the regular players, like for example, like these people who have literally 0 games, Fudge having 0 games. I don't know what's going on with TSM. The organization exploded a long time ago, but like there are people who have low work ethic and a bad performance. And I think that's in a normal situation. You're in Korea, you're scouting a team, you look at your fucking team. There's a dude who's not putting in the work and he's not playing great. You're going to replace that person with somebody from solo queue who's playing pretty great and is working really, really hard. Obviously, you're going to transplant that guy into your team, and him playing great in solo queue, you're going to see if that holds water and playing against like actually good players and playing in a team environment and blah, blah, blah. But that's how it should work. The problem in North America is there's not enough talent. There's not enough player base. Our player base is so small that if you looked at the fucking NA ladder right now and you tried to take players from this ladder and you slot them in, they still wouldn't play as well. With all the resources invested, they wouldn't play as well as the laziest and shittiest LCS player. Like, I really don't think so. I am like so critical of LCS players because I was one and I was almost always at the top of my position. And yet, even though I'm like labeled like such a hater from the community, I seriously don't believe that you take these guys, the tank man. I'm sorry, the tank man, I'm roasting you right now, but like you put him into LCS, he's gonna get turbo fisted. It sucks because if you do the same shit in the Korean ladder, or if you do the same thing in the European ladder, I don't think that's the case. I think that there's a decent chance that those players can do well. It's not true here, and I think what the community wants is they want some sort of like retribution. Like, these fucking lazy guys who aren't playing great, like I want to see somebody else in their spot. It's like, dude, there's nobody.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, people like Afro, Johnson, I don't know, even if Impact just never played Champions Queue, they would still be better than the people who are lining up taking their spots from the solo queue ladder for, you know, a while.
Yeah.
And then that's what makes certain players, I mean, even like Biofrost, right? Biofrost doesn't have any games, right? That's what makes those players feel like I'm safe to not play more Champions Queue.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that Vincent, his work ethic is it's a weak spot of his. And
yes, but the other counterpoint to that is, you know, they should be trying to elevate the region to get to Worlds, and that's what I said earlier. It doesn't matter how much they play because these players are not going to get picked up by Cloud9 and Team Liquid, and let's just say 100 Thieves. Those are the 3 teams that's going to go to Worlds this year. Those players are not in the pool of scouting for those teams that are going to make it to Worlds anymore. And that's kind of the issue. So you have a lot of players who are they're still going to have jobs in the LCS, but, you know, when you want to put a team together to go to Worlds, they're not going to look at this pool anymore. And then a lot of people don't, you know, feel like that extra, 30, 40 hours a week is worth it.
I see people in chat saying like, isn't that like a really shitty mindset? I can't fix the voice chat, guys. Sorry. It is what it is. But if that is a shitty mindset, and I think in other regions, there's a little bit more regional pride. And also, like, the regional pride goes hand in hand with the culture, because I think you like look up to certain players and you look up to the best, and there's a culture for... Oh, hello.
I was just gonna say, I don't agree with it, but I'm just explaining it because that is definitely a problem even when I was on TSM when we're looking at picking up players.
Yeah.
I'm just explaining it, not that I agree with it or making excuses for it.
Yeah, I think it's good to understand why, even though it is wrong, something is happening. Because if you can't even wrap your head around why a pro player is doing it, you're gonna start putting like words in their mouth, or you're gonna start like misinterpreting their actions. Yeah, I think it is best summed up as putting in all that time in a Champions Queue is just not worth it for some people, because their job's not gonna budge. They're not going to get replaced, and they're not going to move up in the world and get picked up by TL's next super team.
Yeah, exactly. Like when C9 is putting together a team this year, right? They're looking at Berserker and Summit. It doesn't matter how much, who's like a top laner, Niles, or maybe who's a better one? Dokla. It doesn't matter how much Dokla plays Champions Queue, he's not going to get picked up by that team. Or at least not for a very long time. Maybe like, if Dokla does this for years and years and he really improves himself. But that's just kind of the reality for a lot of these kind of middle of the pack to lower tier players. There's
a lot of amateurs and there's a lot of academy players who are putting in a lot of effort because they think the Champions Queue might take them to the next level, and it will. Like it should. I don't know. I feel like everyone is kind of failing in a lot of ways. It is really, yeah, it's really rough. There's no reason for Fudge. Oh, sorry. I wanted to keep going because it's just like, oh, well, maybe you have the copium here that this is just one sample size, and April 1st, this is playoffs. So, you can like mental gymnastics yourself into thinking a lot of the teams that are not in playoffs, those 4 teams that are not in playoffs, yeah, they have better things to do. Maybe they're going through roster changes. So I'm gonna scroll even back one more. This is the last week of LCS. This is a week, to give context, this is a super week for LCS. And not only is it a super week, it's a week where you can lock in making playoffs or missing it. You can also lock in having a bye or not having a bye in the first round of playoffs. So this is, in my opinion, the last week of the regular season is the most important week of the regular season by far. All right, so now I've set the stage for why this week is so important. We will now look at it. I think Team Liquid, great job. Average of 2.5 games. Good stuff. What rank is TL? Huh. Weird. Golden Guardians. Hard workers. Pride Soccer and Ole really dragging the team average up, you know, going Team Liquid's 20. This is an average of 24. And look at Pride Soccer and Ole's individual performance and their performance champions queue. Great. I'd love to see it. Good job. You know, Golden Guardians sucks. They didn't really make it, but like, respect the grind. Okay, respect the attitude. FlyQuest, a middle of the pack team. Jose playing by far the most. It looks like Afro was playing a good amount, you know, until he got knocked out. And so I would give him a passing grade. You know, I'll give him a B. I'll give him a B plus. 15 games per week. It's not great, but it's average of 2 games per day. That's the minimum. That's the floor that I want to set. CLG, 2.5 games average per player. Not much to say there. I guess it is interesting that Luger was spamming it so much compared to everyone else. And here we have Immortals. I don't know why it's not available, because I think Joey actually played a shit ton. And I think if Joey's was available, then the average might be, oh no. It is him subtracted. So, okay, passing grade. Evil Geniuses, F. Absolute F. I'm sorry, but like the fact that JoJo is carrying it this hard, I give him an F. That's it. JoJo's not on your team. Your team's like probably dead last in terms of the time spent practicing. Sorry, dude. Like I don't think it cuts it when one person is pulling all that weight. I think for TSM, I would give him an F. I would give him an F. I think Shenyi and Takeover are like they're just carrying it so hard, and everyone else is at some ridiculous numbers. I don't even. It feels wrong when I read it. I know that I'm gonna give TSM an F with an asterisk though, because I know that there's some internal shit going on that I'm gonna give them some slack for. Since that I can't really get into it, but there's a reason why this is happening, and it's not because they're lazy. Like, it's not because they're lazy. There is a real reason for this. So I'm going to give them an F and then be like, see me after class, because there's something more to discuss there, but I can't say it on stream. 100 Thieves, A plus. A fucking plus, man. Yo, good job. 3.5 games average. This is the highest that we've seen. Wait, how does this make any sense? How is it an average of 26? Everyone has 15, 18, 16 games. Not a single person has over 26. So how's the average 26? Fucking Travis trying to do math. He's worse at it than interviewing somehow. Okay, we're gonna skip this. I'm gonna backtrack. I don't think I give him an A plus anymore. This is more like just like a B. Okay, games played for C9. I mean, I'll give him a D. Fudge is kind of trolling everyone, but minus the one player, you know. Okay, Dignitas F minus. Dignitas legit F minus. No fucking idea what's going on there. What rank is Dignitas in the standings? Jesus, man. So this is where ego comes in. This is seriously where I feel like ego is a good thing. If I was on Dignitas and I saw this statistic, and stats don't tell the whole story, but I think they can be used to prove a point. And I saw this statistic, and then I went back and I then took screenshots of every single week of our Champions Queue performance. And then I looked at our standings and said, look guys, if we just won one more game, we would be top 6 in the LCS. We would have made playoffs. If we won 2 more games in the regular season, 2 more games, that's it, we would be top 4 regular season. Can we just step it up a little bit? Can we put in an extra hour or 2 hours a day? Can we raise our team average can we quadruple our team average from 4 to 16? You know, can we do it? Can we pull together as a band of brothers? In an alternate universe, we don't end up 7th place. I feel like that's why ego is important, because you have expectations of yourself. Maybe ego is the wrong word, but like you set a certain, you'll never fall below this level. You'll never perform worse than this. And when you fucking don't meet those expectations and end up 7th place, not making playoffs by 1 game, you're so disappointed and frustrated and mad at yourself. You're so mad at your teammates that you can turn that like energy into something constructive. Yeah, you have standards. That's definitely a better way to put it. You have standards. And I feel like for Dignitas, let's go back even another week and see if like this is like okay. F minus minus minus. The whole team is just getting carried by Rivers 42 games. Yeah, like seriously, like it frustrates me because they can do better. And what happens if Dignitas plays better? Everyone else plays better. It's a cascading effect. Like one team plays better, and it should just not be the way that it is.
That's exactly what I mean, Peter. When I said that, like, Dignitas is probably a team that's given up trying to make worlds. They're just content on being in the LCS and having jobs. And they feel like having an extra 20 or 30 hour work week doesn't really change anything because they're still going to have jobs.
Yep, they still have a job.
Yeah.
You know, come around next year. That's a good point.
They're still, yeah.
Everyone on Dignitas minus maybe Fate God, maybe Blue. I don't know. Like I think some people think that Blue's been playing great. I've been watching him that closely, but his brand is not like particularly great within the community. He doesn't have that much like clout among pro players. I feel like River, Neo, Biofrost, these guys will have jobs come next year, and they'll have somewhat solid jobs. You know, the average salary in LCS is what, 250K?
The average and median is around 400K.
So, yeah, so the median salary in LCS is around 400K. You know, locking in another year or 2 years of a 400K salary and doing the bare minimum, like, that sounds pretty fucking good to me. I don't know if that sounds good to you guys. That sounds amazing. I was so off. 250K, that's how much they're making after taxes. They're taking home 250K cash in their bank account every year. It's 400K. You know, median salary is sometimes obviously not going to tell you the whole picture, but it's definitely not worth it. Yes, it's not worth it for streamers, but these people don't have the brand and reputation built up yet. And they might never. They probably will never.
I think like some of these people, so I mean, here, scroll here. So here, River, you could tell he's working hard. He's someone who, you know, he has a skill and his hard work. He might
take it to the next level.
Exactly. He might break it into the next level. But, you know, some of these players, they probably don't feel that way. And so it's just like, why don't I just enjoy my life while I get paid?
And contracts do have incentives. Somebody just asked, do contracts not have incentives? They totally do. And maybe it's like 350K or 400K. And then if it's like extra credit, if you make worlds or playoffs, then you'll unlock that next level of salary for incentives, and you'll make an extra 100K.
Yeah, I will say most contracts it's mostly base contract, and then incentives make a smaller portion unless you're on a top tier team where then they want to push, like, you know, for like a multi-million-dollar contract, then they want to push that incentive to the next level. But most players, let's just say an average, something that I saw a lot when I was doing contracts was if you make finals or if you win finals, that's an extra 10K bonus on your already, you know, 400K base salary. So that's not that important for some people.
I don't think the incentive is really that important. When I was on TL, I think I don't know how much I can actually, am I going to get in trouble for saying what was in my contract from years ago? I can't. It's like, so my contract on Team Liquid was like around 700K, and I had like around 100K in incentives. And I was so confident that I was going to unlock those incentives that I didn't really give a fuck. But I don't think it's normal to have a huge percentage of your contract in incentives. It's more normal to, like, say, for example, you get like an extra small like 10% bonus if you win LCS or something like that. But I don't think it's normal to have like fucking like, what was that, like 17%?
Yeah, so when I was doing contracts too at TSM, like we would have incentives to try to encourage players to stream. Also, like you would get paid, you know, there's like an X pool of money that you could make if you hit all your streaming hours, and people didn't even do their streaming hours, which is just like free money.
That's funny.
So I'm just saying, like, for a lot of people, they view as, you know, if I streamed an extra like 5 or 10 hours this week, it's not really going to change anything to my brand either, because at the end of the day, a lot of people, you know, already have this big base contract that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, I would say that my contract was not really particularly good or bad. It was really good for its time, because I signed on to Team Liquid, remember, in 2018, and I just came off of TSM, and so I'm like pretty happy with it. I think, you know, I'll tell you, like, some people are saying like I was underpaid, and like in a way towards the end of my time on Team Liquid, I felt that way, but I felt really grateful that because it's about when you sign the contract, right? And I felt like getting that contract at the time was really good. And I never really look at it as much as like those rumors that, you know, for example, there's rumors that like Hooney had like $1 million+ contract. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, you know, not trying to fucking get into a flame war with Hooney or anything. I just felt like I was more valuable brand wise and performance wise than Hooney. And I felt like I was more valuable than every other player in LCS. I felt like I thought I was the most valuable player in LCS. So, but like that doesn't really affect me, because I wasn't really in it for the money, for one, and for two, like, yeah, like that's actually probably the number one thing is like the end goal of my time as a pro player was not to make a lot of money. That was just a nice little side adventure to it, something to think about along the way. And also, like, if you compare yourself to the people who have it the best and are essentially like stealing the fattest paychecks, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy with anything in life because you're always going to feel like everything is so unfair. You can't compare yourself to the outliers, and I can't control that certain owners are dumb enough to pay people twice what they're worth or 3 times as much as they're worth. Realistically, guys, I was getting paid close to $1 million to play video games. I was very happy with that, and I think I did a great job. And you know, I really appreciated that time. I think that Team Liquid really appreciated that time too. And I don't dwell on the past like that, and I don't like feel like, oh fuck, you know, maybe I could have just sniped a fatter contract because I was like on top of the world essentially. Because I definitely have enough money to take care of myself and Lena for the rest of my life, and I just don't worry about that stuff because I'm a fucking gamer, guys. Like, I don't spend money. I spend money on food. That's it.
Well, yeah. Also, you're not an influencer.
Food.
And you have the biggest brand, so that's why you're underpaid.
Yeah, that's true. I'm an American player, right? I'm a resident player, and I have a huge brand as far as LCS is concerned. But yeah, I feel like if you just keep like stacking the deck for me, it just there are times in the last 2 years where I think about playing again, and the number one thing that always comes to my mind is like, I hate the contract negotiation part of it because I would take a pay cut, and I've told this to every single owner that wanted to sign me. I would take a pay cut so that the budget for the team would be good enough to afford the right players. I think I did have this talk with Steve once. Is like, dude, can we just like take some like a few $100K out of my salary so that we can afford this player? Because that's how much I want to play with that person. And then I remember Steve like looked at me. I feel like I'm not gonna remember this exactly perfectly, but maybe Steve will remember. But Steve looked at me and was like, okay, I really don't want you to have to do that, so I'm gonna make it work. Like, I think he went and asked for more money from the investors, but I seriously don't give a fuck. Like, as long as I'm paid like a decent amount of money, I always wanted to play on the best team. That's what's most important to me.
You also told Andy that he could take a couple $100K off your salary to get Sword Art.
Really?
Yeah, do you remember?
I don't. I told you guys, I do that with every single team. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I want to play with the best people. I don't play for the money. Like, even now that I'm a content creator, like, obviously a big part of being a content creator is like making money, but I value the success first. Like, that is what I want the most. That's actually funny as fuck because Sword Art ended up costing a shit ton. Andy totally should have taken me up on that offer. I totally don't remember that though. I'm not gonna lie.
It was a meeting with Andy and Walter.
I see. Yeah, I mean, I told that to a lot of people. The whole point of this was actually talking about Champions Queue, then we got really sidetracked. But the TLDR that I want to everyone to really know now is Champions Queue. It's kind of dead. I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like right now. So Champions Queue has been online. You know, I can queue it up. There's not a single game happening. There's not a single game, right? All these rooms, these waiting rooms is for the games. There's not a single game. I could queue it up. And so, you know, if you're asking me or any streamer, oh, why aren't you playing Champions Queue? Why aren't you playing Champions Queue? This is the question that I'm going to get for the next 5 years of my life. And I'm going to fucking blow my brains out. And I'm just going to keep giving you the same answer because it's not worth the time. I don't want to sit in queue for an hour. And even if I queued up right now, I'd probably get in a game like fucking 8 p.m. I don't know how many 80 carries are ahead of me in this line. There could be 7 80 carries in front of me in this line, and we're looking for one jungler because of the small pool of people. I'm not gonna sit here and waste your guys' time in the name of making better content on Champions Queue, but I'm actually just shooting myself in the foot. No one wants to watch a stream where the dude is just standing here jerking off. I'm just not that kind of streamer. I like playing games. I like having somebody to interact with. I like keeping my mind stimulated, and I think just sitting here is just not what I want to do. If I want to play League, I'm going to queue up some solo queue. If Champions Queue is popping, I'll play it. I'm always going to keep my eye out for the best thing that I can do. And yeah, so I mean, you guys want to see me jerk off, sure, but
You can queue as jungle.
yeah, I can queue as jungle, guys. Actually, if you're not an LCS player, you can't queue off roll, so I can't. I'm not an LCS player, guys. I'm just a fucking 8 times champion, but I can't queue jungle, Sag. So yeah, people always asking me every day when I'm doing anything that's not Champions Queue, why aren't you playing? And I just kind of want you guys to know and spread the word and answer other people in the chat, because if I could, I would. I love Champions Queue. I was having so much fun. I loved it so much that my last 20 YouTube videos is just me having the time of my life in Champions Queue. But that time is over. It's over. Like maybe next split, maybe in a few months from now. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I hope that one day it fucking comes back from the dead and I can enjoy my time again. But the last 2 weeks of streaming it, I haven't been having any fun because I just keep getting frustrated and I keep getting, I like will play a game and then I'll wait an hour and I'm super like, I'm not playing great because I just waited an hour and I feel like really lethargic and my stream isn't feeling good. And I'm just not in a good mood because of how much time I need to wait between games. I get really impatient. I want to play. I want to improve. I want to like make a stream that you guys can enjoy watching. And I don't think it's like this. Watch out, we could risk Papa Smithy or Peter Dunn to label us as making a witch hunt, plus people who don't know how to practice in a team / what a player needs / schedule to dodge the bomb anyway. People were mad that Ellis was let go because of the feeling that something would be different, but naively, I thought Champions Queue would be the thing that could help them grow and change things since they asked it for years, and it is a good fake practice of working on your comms / etc. Weird way of putting it, but like I hear what he's saying. I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but if I was able to have fun, coordinate with random people on Clash, and feel like I improved when we tried to listen to each other's comms, find ideas when in a pinch, have calls on some opportunities, etc., I don't see how it could be useless for a pro when they are good at preparing waves, know more about the limits and strategies around their champion, etc. The only thing I can think of right now is that their team told them to not leak / show picks in Champions Queue, and it makes players nervous / feel it is a chore to play a mode where you have to hold off. He's still living on Mars. He is still living in an alternate dimension. At the very end, we saw the crack. We truly know this man is not of planet Earth. Guys, there's an approximately -4% chance that the reason why people don't want to play Champions Queue is because they feel like they need to hold back their picks. Because you can just lock in another champion. I don't. It's a bit of a little known strategy, but you can just kind of play the meta champions that everyone knows that you already know how to play. Forgive me, master. I must go all out in Champions Queue. This whole thing has become a huge circle jerk. One thing I really dislike about most league discussions when it comes to LCS is it always devolves into something negative. And I almost want to like look up that Peter Dunn tweet where he said like, or no, it was Papa Smithy. It was Papa Smithy, and I want to show you guys like why I don't agree with this take, although it like makes sense at a cursory glance. It's one of those things where when you read Papa Smithy's tweet, you thought like, oh wow, he's really raising a super interesting point. And then if you thought about it for a little bit longer, then you would realize that actually doesn't make sense. Here it is. I'm glad that we as a community have successfully turned the discussion around an objectively huge and positive initiative for NA, Champions Queue, into a witch hunt against the players who choose not to immediately drop their practice habits and play it from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. Context: Fudge and Danny are two of the best players in their role in North America. We should be learning what they do to become as good as they are so quickly, not demanding that they conform to a new system that is intended to prop other players up to their level. So basically he's saying like, this was an objectively good thing, and now we're going to turn it into a witch hunt and single people out and make them feel bad. I don't think he picked the right examples since these two players are not living up to their potential. And in fact, I think Fudge and Danny had way more successful first splits than the split now. And I think a huge part of that is definitely work ethic. But we're not going to talk about these two specific players because we're not supposed to be witch hunting players. What I want to talk about though is like, this is an objectively huge and positive initiative for NA if people use it. Otherwise, it's a wasted opportunity. And I think from the outside, the community is really upset at North America because we have huge contracts. We have a huge amount of resources invested into LCS. Not only is our region one of the lowest viewership, or probably the lowest viewership major region, we're like getting shit on by like fucking the French, Spanish, and Brazilian leagues in terms of viewership. Our salaries through the roof, the resources put into our infrastructure and developing the players through the fucking roof. We actually managed to create a practice environment that could be as good as Korean solo queue. I'm not even exaggerating, because I think either Berserker or Summit came here and said Champions Queue feels like high rated Korean solo queue. That's pretty big fucking praise coming from players who are coming from like the top of their position within the Korean scene. I guess Berserker not really, but you get the point. And yeah, I think the community is not upset about, they're not trying to witch hunt, but this is just like what has to happen. You have to take real world examples when something like this is being wasted. It's actually not even just being wasted, it's being destroyed. Champions Queue is now turning into this thing where pro players are saying, delete it. Just fucking delete it. Because it existing the way that it is embarrassing. It's more embarrassing to like have it and not use it than it is to just say, fuck it, failed experiment, guys. Back to solo queue it is. So I think Papa Smithy's take might have good intentions, but it was such a bad take when I read it. And I wanted to tell you guys like why I thought that, because I'm all for being a positive person, and I don't like how a lot of things within LCS turn really negative really fast. And I think I definitely add to the negativity a lot of the time because people ask me for my honest opinion, and a lot of times my opinion isn't, it's not the nicest opinion. And I feel bad about that, but like I think it's better just to be honest about it. Like LCS fans get pissed off all the time because our region doesn't perform as well as it could. And they have high expectations, and I like that. The fans who haven't given up on LCS becoming like a good region internationally are the ones that are the most valuable, because they're the ones that have fucking stuck with watching LCS for 10 years. Like the ones who've given up have already moved on to Fortnite or some shit. They don't play League anymore, they fucking play Valorant. I think it is important that we have some hope, and that's what pisses off the fans the most. 10 years of LCS, I've given up hope on the region. That's some good shit. That's some good shit. I guess another perspective that I want to like leave with before I turn off the stream is like, this was such an easy win. If LCS had just stuck with this Champions Queue thing and we had great content to watch every day through pro player streams or my stream, and we had a practice environment where it felt like we were doing this hyperbolic time chamber of like the next generation of good players, such an easy win. This is like you have the ball and you're like fucking right next to the net and everyone is just like frozen. They're stun locked for 10 seconds. All you have to do is just dunk it in. But failure. Airballed. Like disaster. I think that's why people have such this like sharply negative reaction to it, because it seemed like from the get-go it was just all positives, all smiles, handshakes all around, circle jerks all around. Yeah, I don't think it's a hot take that NA pros are overpaid and undermotivated. I think that's actually the coldest take. That's been like a 7-year-old cold take. Anyways, it's back to solo queue for me, but I'm exhausted. I did this Dead by Daylight tournament, and I'm probably gonna go back to playing solo queue at normal human hours, not playing until like 1 a.m. And we'll see, right? Like I think right now my motivation to play League has been burned. I don't have the most motivation to play League. It feels like I fucking lived in paradise for a couple months, and then I woke up and it was all a dream and I can't go back anymore. But like now I know that the grass is always greener, but only if I want to wait 2 hours to get there per game. It just feels horrible. So I think I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I had this taste of something great and now I can't have it anymore, and it feels bad either way, no matter what I do.